Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and in this edition, we talk to Kerry Burtnyk, returning to tour curling after a year away from the game. Well, thanks for your time, Kerry. I appreciate it during the summer months. The big news is that you've decided to return to tour curling next year. When did you decide you were going to come back?
Well, I guess I made that decision over the course of probably January, February, and early March is kind of when I was thinking about it and came to that decision.
Not getting a trials berth during your last season of competitive curling, I think, was really frustrating for you. Did seeing Russ Howard come back and get into the Olympics at the age of 50 help motivate you?
Well, there's no doubt that seeing, one of the old guard, which Russ is part of, do well was very motivating. It was great to see that happen, and also he sort of got into a situation that I had thought of for the last few years about that might be interesting, and that's, an experienced guy playing with some younger guys, and, I've seen that a number of times over the years, and I think that that's something that can work very well.
You spoke of your young team. You have a much younger team than you've had in the past, of course, and you will be the grizzled veteran, I guess, on the squad. What kind of schedule are you guys looking to play next year?
Well, I think we're going to play a pretty busy schedule, like a fairly full schedule, and really the motivating factor for that is the way points are accumulated and determined for a lot of major events. It's all predicated on how many points you accumulate, and of course we're starting kind of from scratch being a new team, so I think we're kind of need to play not only because we're a new team, but also to try and accumulate points.
Hey, John Meade recently announced a year off. If you talked to him, what would you tell him to expect from a year away from the sport?
Well, actually, I did talk to John, and, he told me in the early going he's not missing it at all, and I don't expect he will miss it at all until probably, maybe late in the fall or sometime in the winter. I really enjoyed my year off, so, I found it very refreshing. I needed it. I had to determine whether I wanted to commit as much time to the game again as I had in the past, and obviously I decided that I wanted to try it again.
You were an early builder of the WCPA. Did having a fan's perspective on the tour, away from the game, not being in the thick of it, did that give you any thoughts on how the tour could evolve or be made stronger?
Well, I think it's certainly very encouraging to see the continued growth on TV, and in particular during the Olympic playdowns with the popularity of curling in other countries. I think that really leads to the possibility that this game could really have an opportunity to grow, because TV is crucial to being able to get funding for the game, and by having the numbers that are out there outside of Canada, I think it's great for the game of curling. Certainly the game is very healthy as well in Canada, and, from the perspective of watching on TV, I don't think there's anything new that I've seen other than confirmation that I think curling really has a potential to grow in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah,
it's great during the Olympics, the coverage CNBC provided down here and in the United States, and it definitely did boost the game from a novelty to people really being interested in it. Any thoughts on the new TV deal in Canada?
Well, I really don't know too much about it other than the fact that TSN, is going to be the exclusive coverer for, a number of years. I think TSN has done a great job over the years. It's fantastic that they're going to be showing, all the draws, adding more draws in. I think it's, the more TV that curling can get, the better, and they're a great broadcaster of that. I really hope that it's also good financially. That's the part we really don't know too much about because, I think our game is a very valuable commodity, as TSN even spoke about. So hopefully the financial aspect matches the good news of TSN increasing the broadcast hours.
Now, it is a good point because usually when a sport announces a deal, the amount paid for the rights is a big part of the announcement. That never seems to happen with curling. I believe it's because the structure of the deals are a little different than, say, Raptors basketball.
Well, I think it probably is a little bit different, but I think it is also very crucial because that's really going to tell you whether or not it was a good deal for the curling world. Because if we're not capitalizing financially, then something's wrong there. Because the numbers that our game gets on TV is amongst the highest of all sports, so that means it's valuable. And hopefully we're able to capitalize on that, and I'm sure they've taken that into account, and hopefully we'll see that as time goes by as to just how well the game of curling is done.
Yeah, I mean, by the numbers, curling is a very valuable property on TV. Networks would struggle to find something else to get the numbers, yet they don't seem to give it the respect, in my mind, that it deserves. At least the CBC didn't.
Well, certainly it's something that there's been a bit of a stigma that that curling doesn't sell to sponsors. But you know what? Sponsors want to advertise to people that are watching, and curling clearly has people watching. So there's definitely the kinds of demographics out there for sponsors to want to advertise to, which means that there's a potential to sell it to them.
What about watching the game last year as a fan, watching tour events, watching the top players play? Did you learn anything that you might not have gained playing regularly? Did you learn anything that might change the way you play this season?
I'm not sure I really learned anything that would change the way I would play, but certainly, it just reconfirms just how good all these top curlers are. Watching it on TV and seeing the phenomenal shots that are being made time and time again. I can see why it's so entertaining for the people to watch, because these guys are awfully good. And all that tells me is that when I'm back into the game here, I'm going to have to try and be at the top of my game and play better than I've ever played before to have an opportunity to compete with them.
Let's talk about the play in the slam events, which I think, game in and game out is clearly the best curling in the world, yet it hasn't quite captured fans' imagination, say, like the Brier has. And I think clearly the curling in the slam events is superior to the Brier. And I love both events for different reasons. But what do you think the slam events can do to capture a little more of the fans' interest?
Well, I compare it a little bit to golf. Like the TPC championship in golf is probably the most talented field that they have and the best golf that they maybe have all year, yet it's not considered to be a major. And when you look at curling, the Grand Slam events are clearly by far the best talent that is assembled for an event of any of the curling events. And the shot making is unbelievable. And, it doesn't have the history and the tradition of an Olympics or a Worlds or a Brier. And, over time, that is going to continue to grow as it has been, and the Grand Slam events will start to gain more and more acceptance because they are clearly the most talent-laden events and arguably probably the most entertaining events for the fans to watch.
I think they will grow. I think what will happen is eventually there will be some game that pushes it over the top. Some game that everybody remembers and sees and has a lot of drama in it, and that'll start to push the events in fans' minds to the point where they have more drama and the kind of things they expect out of, say, a Brier final.
Yeah, I think a very important point with the Grand Slams is that, when you go back 4 years ago to when they were starting, they were basically played mostly in smaller communities with maybe 1,000 or 2,000 seat arenas for the most part. And now they've graduated into much bigger venues. The last 2 years it's been played in the MTS Center here in Winnipeg with crowds upwards of 6,000 and 7,000 people per day or per draw. And, there's very few events in the game of curling that get that. The Brier arguably might be the only vehicle that gets more fans than that. So clearly there's been a huge growth already in the Grand Slams, and I don't think that should be lost, that, we've come from 1,000, per game to up to 6,000 or 7,000 for some games. So there's been phenomenal growth, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, patience, I guess, is what we need, right?
Exactly. You need time to go by for the fans to become used to it and accustomed to it, and clearly they are coming out stronger each year.
Hey, you talked about the importance of having a third Dan Camerlock who throws tuck like you do. For people who don't curl at your level, explain why you think that's important.
Well, I think it's really important because, he'll throw the rock very similar to the way I throw the rock. And so what that means is it makes it a lot easier for me to be able to ice his rocks. And then once I see his rocks react, it also makes it much easier for me to be able to follow him down. And, it's similar in other sports. When you can follow someone that does it the same way that you do, then it makes it much easier for you to be able to do what you're trying to do. And I'm really looking forward to having these young guys and seeing if I can maybe teach them a little bit, and they're going to certainly inject a lot of enthusiasm into me.
Hey, quick thought on the tuck. I think the tuck looks the coolest of any curling delivery, but clearly it's not taught much anymore, except in your home province, probably. Do you think we'll see it decline? Because I really hope we don't. I love watching guys who throw tuck, even though I never threw that way, and I don't think I'd teach someone to throw that way if it was my daughter or something. But do you think we'll see it decline, or do you think we're always going to have some great tuckers coming out of Manitoba?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about the tuck delivery is that if you counted how many curlers are out there that throw tuck, it would be a pretty low percentage. But yet, when you watch things like the Grand Slam on TV, there's quite a number of tuckers that are participating in that and doing well. So, in my mind, I think it's a great delivery. I don't think it's nearly as hard on your knee as a lot of people think, because a lot of your weight goes directly from your body onto the back of your foot that you're leaning on and not through your knee, whereas I know a lot of flat-footers that have knee problems. So whether it's from curling or from other things, it's hard to say. But I think clearly people that throw tuck can be extremely successful curlers, and obviously I'm biased because I've thrown it all my life. It's interesting, I got two young daughters that are learning the game, and one so far is throwing flat foot and one is throwing tuck. So I haven't tried to sway them either way. That's just the way it seems to be working.
Well, it definitely looks better in photos. I wish I could throw tuck because it looks cooler.
Well, I don't know if I'm the right one to judge whether it looks cooler or not, but it's certainly something that I think can be very proficient.
Right. Hey, Manitoba seems to feature more team reshuffling every year than other provinces. Any thoughts on why?
Well, I think part of it is because I think per capita we have more people playing the game here in Manitoba than most other provinces do. So it's a much more mainstream thing here. And because of that, I think guys are constantly trying to, shuffle the deck and build a better team to try and win the Manitoba Championship. Probably our top 100 teams are stronger than the top 100 teams in most other provinces, and those guys that are sort of between 50 and 100 are always trying to climb into the top 50, and the guys in the 20 to 50 are trying to climb into the top 20, and so on. So I think that's a big part of why there's so much shuffling. This year in particular, it's just amazing. It's like they stuck everybody in a salt shaker and saw what come out as far as the teams go. But I understand actually that a number of other provinces are doing very similar things this year, and I think it has a lot to do with the 4-year Olympic cycle. Yeah,
if you're going to reshuffle, this is the year to reshuffle, right?
That's right.
Hey, we finish our interviews with the Run Back, Kerry, where I give you a topic and you give me your thoughts on it in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
And I'm pretty lax, so if you want to go a little longer, that's fine. Seeding all of the teams in the Safeway Select.
Great thing to do.
The Manitoba city versus rural zones debate.
Certainly it's something that should be ongoing looked at because it can be unfair from time to time.
The reason for Manitoba's up and down records at recent Briers.
That's a mystery to me.
A mystery. Yeah, I don't quite get it either. It's you've had a couple teams that maybe were surprise winners where showings that weren't great were to be expected maybe because it was their first Brier. Anyways, if you could put together a team just to win one game, the players would be.
Oh, there is one catching me off guard. If I had to choose the players to win one game, are you talking about over time or?
No, one game and say the future of all of Canada is at stake.
I'm going to have to pass on that one. I don't know how to answer it.
Oh, geez, come on, your all-star team. What about your friend John Kawaja? Would he be on it?
Oh, okay, you're talking about over all time.
Yeah, all time. You can put anybody on the team you want. You're skipping at any 3 players, and they're all in their prime years.
Well, I'm going to exclude my guys because, I would probably have chosen my guys to begin with, but I'll exclude them for this. And, John Kawaja would definitely be part of that team. Wayne Madaw would be part of that team. And Don Walchuk.
All right. I think that could save Canada in that game. You'd have it.
We'd have a good chance.
All right. And the last run-back question, Corey Naharny's headband.
Yes.
I think I need to get him to wear a Curling Show logo on that next year. Maybe I'll be a minor sponsor of the doctor.
He might just go for that. You never know.
He's a colorful young guy out there in Manitoba, and I'm glad to see he's playing with you.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to have him on board. I think he is one of the top leads out there, never mind just in Manitoba. So definitely he's going to add a lot of character to our team as well. I think he's going to be perhaps the glue that puts everybody together.
Thanks for being on the show, Kerry. I think it's great, and I think fans will think it's great that you're back. Enjoy this summer, and we look forward to seeing your team play next season.
Well, thanks very much for your kind words, Dean.
That's Kerry Burtnyk on The Curling Show. Thanks for listening. Black Pudding is next.
Feel the